Of students in schools from the number of rising cases that we have reported on student sexual violence on students and pupils, as well as those mysterious deaths happening within the school premises. That discussion we'll be having in just a while with my panelists. But before I even introduce them to you, we also have our correspondents and reporters across the country. We'll also be giving us a brief on what is happening within their various counties. We have Nurdin Elmoge, who is in Wajir County, Kevin Mutai from Mombasa County. We also have Martin Mwaura from Murang'a and Bernardo Juang from Homa Bay. But first we'll begin with Martin Mwaura from Murang'a County. Martin, good morning. What do we have from you from that side?
It's a good morning, Zainab. Yes, it's a good Tuesday morning from Murang'a County. Now, I just want to give a sneak peek of what is happening in this county. For today, Zainab, we just want to... There's been an issue of psychiatric issues among the youth in Murang'a. If maybe I can just give you a small brief of what is happening is Murang'a County the experts have raised what we call a red flag over an issue of increase in cases of psychiatric issues. Just yesterday we spoke to the person in charge of the psychiatric ward, which is known as Ward 9 at Murang'a Level 5 Hospital, and he painted a very grim picture. He told us that, and the most saddest part that is happening is that the affected are the youth, the teenagers, actually high schoolers between the age of 15 and the age of 35, and that is what we can just call them the youth. And what is these cases are on the increase because of increase in abuse of drugs and bang, mostly bang and another legal substance known as kuber. These cases are on the increase, and the management at the hospital are raising a red flag and asking the county government to intervene to save the future generation, the youth, before all of them end up in the drain. Now, something else that we are following up on is that today we'll be having a training on medical practitioners, the clinical officers and the nurses on malaria. Some of these diseases, Zainab, to bring to your attention, were unheard of in Murang'a. But due to climatic and environmental changes, the global warming, such cases have now started to be reported in Murang'a. Malaria was unheard of, and actually we have never had any death of malaria. But because of the climatic changes, now it is becoming another concern among the practitioners, health practitioners in Murang'a, and that is why the training has been planned for them. Now, just for the topic that we'll be discussing about today, the state of safety of our students. Zainab, I want to tell you that in Murang'a we have had 4 cases of students dying under mysterious circumstances. Just to give you what Murang'a High School had a case like 2 years ago. A student was found dead in his dormitory. Last year, we have a student from St. Paul's Gadukene who drowned in a swimming pool after attending a competition. Now, last year, and actually a week before KCSE, a student from Gaishanjiro High School died at the dormitory after entertainment on a Saturday. Now, recently we had those cases of Gatanga CCM where another student died mysteriously. As you can see, I'm near the county education offices. I'll be engaging the county director of education to tell me what they are doing to ensure that these deaths come to an end. Back to you, Zainab.
Right, Martin Mwaura there from Murang'a, and of course we'd like to hear what the County Director of Education will be able to tell us on the state of safety in schools in Murang'a County. Now we also have Kevin Mutai from Mombasa County. Kevin, a very good morning to you. What do we have from you from Mombasa?
Well, thank you so much, Zainab, and good morning. We are coming to you live from our newsroom in Mombasa with my colleagues headed by Alan Olingo from the other department, that is the print department, and my colleague Karim Rajan and Peter Wainaina. We have a lot for you today. We are covering lots of stories, and among them, top on our diary is the construction of the Kipevu oil terminal that has commenced. The 40 billion shillings project will also have a liquefied petroleum gas terminal which will help stabilize the gas supply across the country. Also, we are following up on the sad story of the death of the Kenyan doctor in Cuba, that is in Havana, Ali Hamisi Juma. We are informed by some members of the family that they are working on some documentation to ensure that his body will be flown into the country. Remember that authorities are working together with the Kenyan embassy in Havana to make sure that his death will be investigated and the family given a report on that particular matter. Also, we are following up on the Waitiki land issue. Remember that it has taken ages for thousands of residents to collect their title deeds, and we are following up in that story to ensure that we give our viewers what will be developing. Remember, the president entered into an agreement with the owner, that is Evans Waitiki, and agreed that the more than 900-acre piece of land will be distributed evenly among the residents who are living in that particular area of Likoni in Mombasa. Also, we are following up on a story in Kwale County where residents in Vanga have opposed the best tenant plans to further explore minerals in that area. Another story that is also hitting our headlines in Mombasa is a situation whereby 3 standard 8 girls were found in Kilifi. These girls were allegedly abducted from a primary school in Nyali here in Mombasa, and authorities found these girls in Kilifi. We're also following up on that story. Also, Zainab, there's also something interesting that is happening for the first time in Mombasa, whereby the Mombasa Huduma Center opens its arms to the health breastfeeding program. This is the first case of such a situation to happen in Mombasa, and mothers, I'm sure this is where you will all be happy to hear that. And of course, also there's also an issue of water shortage, whereby Taita Taveta, Mombasa and Kilifi residents have been warned to brace for another week whereby they will be missing water from their pipes. This is after there was a major burst, major burst in Taita Taveta area, and that is what has really caused the institutions in charge of that particular matter to raise this alarm. But for now, Zainab, let me hand it over back to you so that you can also get to hear from my colleagues across the country on what they have on their dockets. Back to you, Zainab.
Kevin, thank you so much. And now let's link up with Bill Otieno, who is in Taita Taveta in Voi. Just to give us an update on what is happening in that side. Bill, a very good morning to you. What can you tell us from Voi?
Thank you very much, Zainab. We are live here in Voi, which is the heart of Taita Taveta. Actually, we've been following a story on water shortage, just like my colleague have said earlier, that we've been experiencing a water shortage for the past 4 months, for the past 4 weeks. And actually, we're also following up on a story about bank that was seized yesterday. The police, in conjunction with the county, the office of the county, with the county commissioner of Taita Taveta, did manage to capture or to arrest and detain a 10 million worth bank. And this happened yesterday when there was a raid and alarm from the public. And the bank are now kept at the Matati police station. And also we'll be following about today's discussion about the security on the school-going children. And as you understand, here in Taita Taveta we have cases of early marriages, and also we have cases of child defilements. So we'll be following up these stories as I'll be having my guests around here, and we discuss. Thank you very much. Back to you, Ishmael, at the Nation Center in Nairobi.
All right, Bill Otieno there from Voi, and of course we'll be linking up with him later on. Away from that, the number of children diagnosed with measles has been on the rise in Wajir County. So far, 4 deaths have been reported and another 500 children diagnosed with the virus in the county. But a campaign by Save the Children and the Ministry of Health is seeking to curb the spread of the virus. And NTV's Wajir correspondent Nurdin El-Moge reports from the northeast. Nurdin.
Thank you, Zainab. As you've said, with 4 deaths and 500 diagnosed with the measles since the outbreak was reported early in the year. And currently, as you said, Save the Children, UNICEF and the Health Department of Wajir have embarked on 1-week immunization exercise targeting 94,000 children under the age of 5 years. And that is some of the stories that we'll be following for you from Wajir today. Joining the conversation from Wajir on the safety of children. And Zainab, you understand, every county, every community in Kenya has its own dynamics when it comes to the younger ones at schools. In Wajir, apparently, it's totally different. And professionals in the education sector are worried that when parents move out to their livestock in search of water and pasture during such times when drought is biting in the region, then the safety of the children is one issue that remains a debate in the county. And normally what pastoralists here do is that they leave the children behind to take care of themselves. In one such case where a class 7 girl was left with her younger brother who is class 3, and the lady ended up, the lady picked early unwanted pregnancy, and the way she wanted to terminate that pregnancy is an issue that has raised alarm among parents in the county. And we've earlier spoke to the county secretary, Teachers Union branch here in Wajir, Nur Bardat, and here. Okay, thank you.
Of course, we'll be having that report later on during the course of this broadcast. Away from that, we also have Bernard Ojwang, who is in Homa Bay County. A very good morning to you, Bernard. What do we have from you from Homa Bay?
Well, thank you very much. We are here at Homa Bay High School. Remember, what's going on here is sporting activities. That is regional Term 1 games. That is football. That is athletics, hockey. Several games here. That is several schools from Nyanza region have come here to participate in different sporting activities. We'll be covering it. Remember, it started yesterday, and it is expected to end come tomorrow. We'll be covering that for our sports news come for 7 p.m. and also 9 p.m. Apart from that, we'll be also talking about school safety, that is the implementation of safety measures in schools. And of course, I have Homa Bay High School Principal Vincent Mayenga, who will be telling me more about this, and also he will be telling me something about, because he has experience in managing school. He will be telling me what has worked for him, at least to make sure that there is no anxiety, there is no insecurity in his working place. Back to you. And remember, we will also, Zainab, will also be talking to some of the games masters here. Just whoever will emerge the winner. Remember, we have Kanga High School, we have Homa Bay High School, we have Mbita High School, we have schools from Migori County, we have schools from Kisii counties, and also that is Nyamira and Kisii County. We'll be talking to them. We'll be interacting with them just to get what they feel about the competition. And also, remember, recently on our topic of the day, we've been seeing cases whereby, just to take you back, late last year, we saw cases whereby many schools were set ablaze by students, and some were set ablaze by unknown people. Some were arrested and they were charged. And of course, many people, especially people who have invested in education sectors, that is education stakeholders, they have been looking for a long-lasting solution in curbing such cases. And of course, we'll be interacting with them. And also, the teacher here will be telling me how is it working for him, that he makes sure that no student is suffering in school. Since remember, these students, once they are here, they are under his care. And of course, we'll be talking to him. He will be telling us more. He will also get the opportunity to to talk to the winners here. That is sporting activity that is currently going on there, and we'll be giving you more about that in the next few minutes. We'll be giving you more. Zainab, back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Bernard. And of course, we'll be joining you later on to give us more details of the same. But before we even get into the conversation that we have today, we also understand that Okokusa is live from Kisumu to give us an update as well. A very good morning to you, Okokusa. What do we have from you from Kisumu County? All right, we understand that we'll also be having Okokusa in just a few minutes back on. Remember, our conversation today will be on the state of safety within our schools. And research shows that on average, children spend between 900 to 1,000 hours annually within the school premises. Now we understand Okokusa is back live. Oko, very good morning to you. What do we have from you from Kisumu County? All right, we understand that we cannot be able to get Okokusa. Of course, we'll be linking up with him in just a moment. But remember, like I said, research shows that on average, children approximately spend about 900 to 1,000 hours in school per year, depending on the class level. Now, thus, school safety is an integral and indispensable component of the teaching and learning process. Indeed, no meaningful teaching and learning can take place in an environment that is unsafe and insecure to both learners and staff. From cases of students mysteriously losing their lives in schools to sexual violence against pupils and students. What is the problem and how do we begin to change that? And in studio this morning to discuss just that, we are joined by Robbie Koki. He's an education specialist as well as a lecturer at USIU. We'll also have Nicholas Mayu, is the chair of the National Parents Association. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll also be joined later on with Victor Wanga. He's a teacher at Upper Hill School. And of course, thank you so much. That's Victor Wanga, teacher at Upper Hill School. Of course, we'll be joined later on with Nicholas Mayo, the chair of the National Parents Association, just to give us an in-depth analysis of the situation. Now, on Sunday, our investigative editor Dennis Okari did a piece, I don't know if you watched it, on a student who mysteriously died, a Form 1 student at the CCM Gatanga Girls High School in Muranga County. Now, this raised a lot of questions with parents saying they're not aware of what happened, and the school sort of like keeping a little bit of, being tight-lipped on exactly what happened. And that's not just the only case. I'll just name a few of the same that are painting a bad picture of how students and how safe students are in schools. The other day, in the same time in Embu, Form 2 students from Kangaroo High School in Embu are reported to have succumbed to injuries he sustained for allegedly being beaten by a teacher. Another student also died mysteriously at the St. Joseph Nyabigena Secondary in Kisii County. He allegedly collapsed and died shortly after he was beaten up by a school prefect after an argument. And this begs the question. I'll start with you, Robbie. How safe are our children within the school premises?
I think the question is, how safe are we all? It's not just the children, but of course there's that idea that school should be a safe zone for children and a safe haven for children, because that's where they grow up, like you say, spending 1,000 hours a year in 4 years, that's 4,000 hours. It's important that they be safe through the school. Otherwise, there's no point of taking them to school if at all there are no safety measures in school. So for me, I think there are certain challenges that really need to be discussed in terms of facilities and numbers of students in the school. I don't know whether there's that equivalent where you are catering for a certain number of students, your facilities should have certain number of students, but because of demands from maybe the national government or the county government, you find that schools are really congested. And in that way, a lot of times parents don't have access to beyond the classrooms. They don't see what happens in the dorm. They're not able to reach those facilities. No school is going to diverge the challenges they have to parents. And of course that will beg the question is whether in terms of accommodation, food, and what they need to be in school, that shouldn't worry them. Those are some of the issues that probably bring up these challenges.
All right. Victor, I don't know, in your own assessment, what do you think is the problem?
No, thank you. From my own assessment, I would talk about the safety of a school, not just on learners alone. We are talking about safety of all the stakeholders in school. I know from what the media is talking about, we are just talking about students. The other stakeholders who will equally go through the same. Would have expected from your analysis to talk about a teacher in Nakuru who was also attacked by the students and he died. And so the safety is a very paramount feature in any education system. And just as my colleague has just said, is that the government of Kenya, we've just concentrated on how to pump in more and more students into schools. We are talking about congestion in schools, boarding schools. How safety is it for a student who spends? We have the double deckers. If the beds are that congested to an extent that one can even fall and knock the other down, what can happen? Is that safety? When we're looking at safety, let the focus not be so much on the teacher did this, the teacher did that, but how do we make things safe for the stakeholders? I'm not talking that if a teacher is probably brought in corporal punishment that has led to losing of a life of a student, that should be condoned. No. But what I'm saying is that it's safety for everyone. Look at a teacher who is trying to protect one child from being attacked by the other. You've talked of a prefect beating a student till they die. What if a teacher who wanted it, who wanted to intervene or who intervenes and is attacked by the same students? So it's safety that is all rounded, and I really think that is something that the government of Kenya needs to look at, that how safe are our schools? And it needs to be a debate that trickles down to the students themselves. As long as they know their right, they also need to know that the teachers have the rights, the watchmen, and even the other stakeholders surrounding
community. An all-rounded approach towards ensuring safety of students and other staff members as well.
Yes.
Well, before we continue, we also understand that Daniel Mule had filed this following report on safety of all staff members within the school premises. Let's take a look at that report.
An 11-member special investigation team put together to carry out thorough investigations into the wave of school unrest that hit the country in 2016 reviewed recommendations of past task forces on school unrest and audited existing school safety and security regulations and systems. The team then handed over their recommendations to the Ministries of Interior and Education in April last year. The Claire Omolo-chaired committee visited 97 secondary schools and gave specific recommendations on each of the subjects under investigation. On security, the task force recommended any boarding school that does not meet the appropriate security standards of a boarding school should be deregistered or converted to a day school. The appropriate security measures recommended include a secure perimeter fence around the entire school and not sections of it. The gates should be manned for 24 hours. Above that, the report recommended a 24-hour CCTV surveillance in all areas in the school to be boosted by presence of vetted security guards who are not above the mandatory retirement age of 70 years. Investigations by the special team pointed out loopholes in the area of security guards. For instance, in some schools, there were no specific job descriptions for support staff, with groundsmen doubling up as watchmen at night, thus compromising the security of the schools. Such guards were not vetted during recruitment, and some were ignorant and incompetent in matters of safety and security. An ideal secure school, the report indicates, should also have metal detectors, fire extinguishers, random sniffer dog security patrols, and adequate security lighting at night. It further stated that fire drills for students and staff should be conducted at least twice a year. The Ministry of Education is tasked with ensuring that any new boarding school being established meets those prescribed standards before registration and admission of students. An interagency security survey team comprising Ministry of Education, Teachers Service Commission and the Ministry of Interior are mandated with carrying out annual security surveys and quarterly security spot checks in schools. The task force discovered that an earlier policy requiring that all head teachers of boarding schools and their deputies reside in schools to effectively monitor and supervise all activities had been ignored by a majority of the 97 schools they visited. The school heads and their deputies are supposed to lay down an effective supervision plan of the school personnel. The committee pointed out that lack of supervision led to complacency, where in some schools with up to 6 security guards, the administration could not account for the whereabouts of the guards during the time of attacks or fire incidences in those schools. In total, the task force interrogated 168 recommendations by previous task forces, of which 64 have been fully implemented, 54 partially implemented, and 50 not implemented. Daniel Mule, NTV.
All right, and that was a report by Daniel Mule, which was filed a while back. And of course, that will be also be forming the basis of our discussion. We'll also be adding to the kind of conversation that we're having here in studio this morning. And before I also introduce another guest who's also arrived, we understand that the Chinese embassy is currently holding a brief on the inspection and also an inspection tour of the standard gauge railway. Let's listen in.
As one of the best 5 things to do in Kenya. And tourism has turned to be one of the industry benefiting most from SGR. With the development of the whole industry chain, from railway transportation, port economy to industrial park, we have every reason to believe that SGR will strongly boost the GDP growth of Kenya. More details about the economic benefit and operational data will be introduced by our SGR people later. Here I would like to reiterate that the Nairobi-Mombasa SGR is the model of China-Kenya cooperation. China attaches great importance to Kenyan employees and is doing our best to help them completely master the skill of driving and operation so that the SGR could be handed over to Kenyan side on schedule. In short, we believe that the SGR belongs to Kenyan people and will benefit Kenyan people forever. Number 5, number 5 is the news about the embassy. We are expecting a new boss of the embassy. The new ambassador of China to Kenya, named Mr. Wu Peng, W.U., surname is W.U., Peng, P-E-N-G, Wu Peng, W-U-P-E-N-G. Mr. Wu Peng is the new ambassador to Kenya, is about to assume his new post. Actually, he's arriving on Friday morning, this Friday morning, by Southern China Airline. Mr. Wu, Ambassador Wu, is a senior diplomat. He was once served as a counselor of permanent mission of China to the United Nations in New York, and also Deputy Director General of the Information Department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And also, he was once the Vice Mayor of Sanya City in China's Hainan province. He was once Vice Mayor of that city. And later, he was the Ambassador of China to Sierra Leone, West Africa. Now we are looking forward to Ambassador Wu's arrival and also believe that he will open up a new era of China-Kenya friendship and cooperation. That is 5 new exciting good stories I'd like to share with you. Finally, I also hope today's event a full success and hope our Kenyan think tank and media friends can take good of this opportunity to grasp more story, more information from the guest we invited. And also, we hope you will also be the ambassador and bridge to assist, to support China-Kenya friendship and cooperation. Asante sana.
Thank you very much. All right, and that was an update on the status of the standard gauge railway from the Chinese embassy. They'll also be having an inspection tour of the SGR. Okukusa is in Kisumu, and we understand that at this point there is the Kisumu International Airport has been closed for runway expansion by the Kenya Airports Authority. Okukusa, very good morning to you. What is happening from Kisumu?
Yes, as you have mentioned there, it is true that the airport has been closed for maintenance. They are speaking about a maintenance that will take around 10 days, beginning 18th to 28th, that is yesterday. But today on 19th, according to a statement released by KAA, that is Kenya Airports Authority, is that the airport will remain completely closed for today, that is 19th. And then as from tomorrow, it will be opened, it will be operating between 6:45 a.m., that is in the morning, to 7 p.m. That is daily. So it will only be open for flights between that period, that is 6:45 a.m. to 7 p.m. So it means that the airport will remain closed for the night for the rest of the days. And according to what we are made to understand is that the works are targeting the runway, which is supposed to be widened. The last time it was widened, it was sometime in 2012, I think, and that was to the length of 60 meters. So when they speak of widening it, it means that they're extending it or expanding it from 60 meters, but they have not indicated to what distance. So that is an information we are yet to find out from KAA authorities. But besides that, we also know that the length of the runway as we speak now stands at 3.3 kilometers. It was last extended in 2008. That time it was 2 kilometers, but it was extended to 3.3 kilometers. That is the current length of the runway. We don't know whether that is also going to be affected, but according to the statement we've seen, they are talking about widening the runway. So that is the information we have. Just to maybe bring our viewers to speed with what Kisumu International Airport is that it was built, it was upgraded sometime in 2008 at a cost of 7.5 billion shillings. That is when it was upgraded to international status. The statistics by 2013 indicated that it handles more than 400,000 passengers annually. Probably that has gone up now that we have even seen an increase in the number of airlines that operate here. We are talking of 5 airlines, that is Kenya Airways, that is KQ, Jumbo Jet, Fly 540, Silverstone, Safari Link, and Fly 540, as I mentioned there. So we are a total of 5 airlines that operate here daily. And as I mentioned there, the number of passengers as 2013 was over 400,000 annually. So that is basically what we know about the airport here. There has been a lot of concern, especially from passengers. Just last month, during the heavy downpours here, we saw one of the roofs leaking at the terminals there, and that caused a lot of concern. So probably we suspect that during this maintenance that is going on now, they will also be handling the roof that we saw there, a video that went viral of a leaking roof during some heavy downpours down here. So that is what is happening here. We'll be keeping tabs on what is happening. It remains deserted. As you can see, just a handful students coming up here to see what actually transpires here at the airport. And besides that, nothing much is happening. Even the taxi operators usually flock here. We can't find any of them. So it means the whole facility remains kind of deserted. And this is going to go on, as KA has mentioned there, for the next 10 days. So we'll be keeping you updated with the works here. Back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you so much, Okukusa, there from Kisumu, and giving us an update on that renovation happening at the Kisumu airport. But remember, our conversation this morning is surrounding the state of safety within our schools. And we are now joined by Nicholas Maio, who is the chair of the National Parents Association. Thank you so much, albeit quite late, but welcome. We also have Robbie Koki, just to remind you, an education specialist and also a lecturer at USIU, and Victor Wanga, a teacher at Upper Hill. Well, you know, Victor, you were talking about, you know, including teachers as part of the stakeholders in, formulating policies and being part of the people who speak on safety and not just focusing on students being affected alone. I'd like to bring in, Nicholas into the conversation. We were speaking and we gave statistics of, the number of students that have been affected, in safety in terms of, sexual violence, mysterious deaths within our schools. And teachers, teachers are coming in, with Victor saying, they also have to be looked at. It's not just a student situation. What is your, your view, your sentiments on the same?
Yeah, I concur with him because as a parent, we are very much concerned about the safety of our children, especially when they are away, when they are not within reach of biological or the guardians. We are very much aware that our children are in school with the teachers most of the time than even us as parents. So it's very paramount that their safety is safeguarded. There was a task force made by a lady, and we requested the government to implement fully the task force because there were some recommendations that we made on the various aspects, and we're asking our parents, wherever they go to school on maybe academic days or parents' days, they physically visit the dormitories, the washrooms, the kitchen, the play field, for them to know. Because most of the time, they just arrive in the school and they are told to go and sit in the dining hall for meetings. But then when they're in those meetings, they have not seen the state of the schools. So if they are told to make some recommendation or to say something, they don't know what to say because they have not visited the place. So we want as much as possible for them to visit right in the dormitory, to know how the stockyards are there, the double tucking in the bedding, how is it, and the safety.
All right, and we'll come back to the role of parents in including, being part of the conversation. But Robbie, there are, been recommendations of probably installing CCTV cameras and security apparatus within our school parameters. Do you think that is viable?
It can be viable, but who will manage it? That's the question. Because you can have CCTVs all over the place, but then who is there to constantly make sure that they are, monitoring what's going on? I think it's a good idea that the idea of adding apparatus, it's a good idea. But one of the things I noticed when I traveled out, what people say about Kenya, it is over, what's the word? They say Kenya is just over securitized. You securitize everything. You get into a building, you get out of the building, but still, a disaster strikes, even with all those things in place. So I think, again, it's a matter of, do we want to revert our schools into safe zones? And in that process, what are the stakeholders saying? What is the teacher saying? What is the parent saying? I remember when we were in high school, we had enough teachers in the school to take care of our interests. They used to be on duty. It was easy to man the school. When I visited my school the other day, it was a different thing. It has some blocks are, there's a storied block. The school has expanded. The space is still as cramped. The number of students who were told, you were like, oh my God, with these facilities, maybe it will not work. So I think the fundamental question is to look at what is the root cause. What is the root cause? Who is pushing schools into taking these many students and not providing facilities for these students per se? What is the architectural design of the school? Is it child-friendly or adult-friendly? For example, when you're talking about safety exit, is it something that the children are aware of? Are they aware what they need to do? Do we have people making sure that students who are still children are guided through most of these most of these drills, for example? Do we have them knowledgeable of what to do when there's a fire? Do we have the teachers, the security team available? When they are talking about security guards not being over 70, are there professional security organizations hired by the school? what is the level of professionalism there? And then, of course, that's a challenge to the head of the school, the management or the administration. Are they trained to deal with a crisis? Do they know what they need to say? For example, I feel for the principal who might not have known what to say or do, they can't be everywhere. You know, to see what's happening in the dorms. The people they've entrusted, like the prefects, take things out of context.
All right.
So what is the control system there? And how can we go back to just making the school safe like it used to be?
Fantastic question. And of course, Victor, when we come back, we're going to take a look at the teachers. And is there, you know, a training, and should there be a training for teachers on how they'll be able to meet the needs of students when it comes to safety? But first, I understand that we have Melita Oletenges from Nyeri, who also will be speaking to some of the parents and teachers from that area. Melita, very good morning to you.
Global South countries to ensure that.
And thank you. As you've said, we are coming to you from Nyeri High School, where we'll be joining the conversation on the level of safety in schools. And we are at the Nyeri High School, and this is particularly a topic that is very sensitive in high schools, because parents want to take their children and the students to see schools that are very safe, free from violence, free from harassment, drug and substance abuse, and of course free from any harm that may come their way. So we are at the Nyeri High School, and we are going to be speaking to the principal briefly regarding this particular matter. Remember, Zainab, in the past we've seen in different high schools, we've seen early this year in Nakuru, certain high school, in fact, students were attacking the teacher. We also saw this in Karatina, a boys' high school in Karatina, Kirimara, I think, where students also attacked their deputy principal last year, and the recent case of Kangaroo High School, where a student is said to have allegedly died as a result of a beating by a teacher, although the school has remained adamant that this was not the case. So Zainab, just to get what this school is doing differently in ensuring that their students are safe, I'm going to be speaking to the principal, and thank you, sir, for joining us on NTV. First of all, we've been given a note as we entered the school. Why is it necessary for any person who's visiting this school?
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Maina JK, Principal, Nyeri High School. I want to welcome you to Nyeri High School. And as you have just asked the first question, why you have been given a note at the gate. This is one of the security measures that we have put in place in this school to ensure that whoever is coming here is notified, and we already know who or she is, because we want to know this person as he comes and says, I want to see so and so. Did he really reach to that person, or he can get a way out? This is gives us confidence, because at the gate you cannot go back unless you give back that sheet. Whom did you go to see? If it was a particular teacher, he must sign, or she must sign. And then at the gate, you must give it back. If you don't, if it is not signed, the security will not allow you until he proves where you are coming from. That is one of our security measures, and it is for everybody. Yes.
And that is the first security measure when you enter the compound. Now, within the compound, what are some of the measures that maybe the school has taken to ensure that the students, the pupils, are very safe, and also the teachers are safe, having in mind recent cases of violence that we've seen in different schools?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think the matters of security sometimes is a little bit difficult and delicate, because security is more of, first it starts with you. How safe are you, and which precaution as an individual can you be in a position of taking when this and this comes in, before you even go to the totality of the measures that have been put place either in a school or either in a country. So it first starts with you, and I think one of our first things that we have done as a school is to create great awareness about individual security. Which measures you as a student are you going to put to react to when something happens? And we normally teach them, especially in assemblies, we normally teach them, if this one happens, what are you going to do? We have a very active St. John group, the cadets, who normally are mandated to give us some of those details, be it in terms of emergencies, because security can also be a form of emergency. Something can happen. How are you going to react? And we have been carrying out some of these things in our assemblies and also in the various clubs. So we have a safety club, which is within the St. John, and they go all along all these forms of drills. Then number two, we as a school, we have also, like what we have seen at the gate, we have to vet all our visitors. Who are these people coming? We must know the purpose, as you have seen in that sheet. Fortunately, you just came impromptu, and you have seen one of our security measures, which is very, very good. Number three, as a school, we have also ensured the various policy guidelines relating to safety standard in school are met. And in this case, when you visit our various places, you realize that if it is the doors, they are opening outwards. This is in case there is an emergency inside, then the students will be able to push it outside, and it opens very fast. This is for both doors and windows. When you go around, we have a fire assembly point. It's also a form of security. And they are aware, and also SADs. Cans, that is bucket SADs, for any fire. And they are aware that thing is not closed. They can access the fire, the extinguishers at ease in case of a fire. But more so, there is what we call now the individual security, be it in the dormitories, the houses, which we call houses. We teach them, when you are there, be your brother's keeper. When there is something, how will you alert the school authority? Because you know, sometimes teachers will be blamed for nothing, simply because the teacher is not in the dormitory. He will be informed of a case that either a student has become very sick and therefore he needs medical attention. We teach our students that they are the brother's keeper. Once you see a certain boy is not feeling well, you as the decamate, you as the cubemate, you as the secretary of that house, please ensure you have taken necessary action and also inform the school administration very, very fast. The security at night are aware of this, and when there is something going on, a student outside in the abnormal hours, they will take action immediately and inquire what is it about. The other thing that we need to look at is especially more on sickness, is here we have the school nurse who is here 24/7 to ensure that if there is any form of emergency, he takes action immediately. And if there is any form of referral, the student is referred to the nearby and closest hospital for any emergencies. For ourselves, there is Madari Hospital, which is near to us, and it has really assisted us. But we have never allowed any case to go unattended. In fact, the parents are alive when we have already taken good care of that. However, emergencies are emergencies, and even at home there are emergencies. You as a parent, when there is an emergency, what do you do? That is the same thing that we also do here, because the teaching is parenting. It's more of parenting these days than being in class. You are looking at the welfare of this child, and I want to let you know. Sometimes we look at the smaller evil, we glorify the smaller evil rather than the 90% or 99% that is very good on what teachers are doing. And to take care of these young ones, I want to let you know that teachers are sacrificing themselves a lot. Emergencies and accidental happenings happen anywhere, even at home. Your child can break a hand, can break a leg. What are you going to do? You take emergencies and rush him to the hospital. So emergencies are everywhere because schools are not isolated. So sometimes when you hear one or two few cases, it is still within the normal values or normal societal values. But how do we react to them? We would not like a case where a boy or any student can die in school. But sometimes you can have 1 or 2 isolated cases because health is also it's internal. It is internal. Yes. You may be suffering one thing, and the teacher is not aware, but is reporting very late.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. That has been the principal of Nyeri High School, Maina JK, just highlighting on various sensitive issues, very important issues there. And I from this part of the country, you know, there have been several cases touching on safety in schools, but he's been able to highlight some of the very vital measures that schools should also be taken to ensure that our pupils, our teachers, and also our parents visiting or studying in the school are in safer hands. But for now, over to you, Zainab.
All right, thank you so much. Melita Oletenges there, speaking to the principal of Nyeri High School, of course, giving quite interesting remarks on the state of safety within schools. And of course, the conversation here will now be taking place in a studio after this quick break. All right, thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching NTV Today. Now, Victor, you are a teacher from Upper Hill School, and there's a question that I posed to you before we went on a break, and I asked, do you think teachers need a training on how to deal with, you know, certain crises and emergencies that happen within schools, and how to meet those, you know, those needs of students within the school premises?
Teachers, just like other stakeholders in the school, are parents themselves. And so as we talk of the training, for one to be a teacher, he or she has gone through a training. And remember somebody saying that teaching is parenting of the child or the student. Myself as a teacher, I treat my students as my own children. What I cannot do to my own child, I cannot do to a teacher. I mean, to a student. But look at a perspective of having a society whereby somebody who takes care of your child for 900 to 1,000 hours annually, which is close to 4,000 hours in 4 years, has been profiled and looked at as if it's not somebody giving guidance. So let's look at this thing from perspective that is not just the teacher, but it's about all the stakeholders, from even parents. If a child is used to or comes from an environment where people are just always fighting, they come to school, we want to protect other people's children. You have this huge boy here, wants to fight a small boy. The mediator is the teacher. the teachers, they want to reconcile and ensure there's no fight. What if this huge one tries to attack the teacher? Because there might be most of unreported cases of teachers being attacked. I was looking at some case study in the US whereby a student just goes and attacks the teacher. And just because the teacher has become armless, you don't have any power to protect yourself. Because if you overreact, you attack the student. If you do anything, it becomes a scenario whereby we need to debate as a society that where did we go wrong? Because when I was a young boy, a teacher was such a respected member of the society.
And I still believe it
because the community today has seen teachers as if they're the ones who are making all these things in schools not to be possible. And remember, these are the teachers who are there. I'm a boarding teacher. I can tell you that even midnight or 1 a.m., I could be awake just to ensure that my students safe. Have they slept? If I hear of any noise, I'll go there running, and I'm not the security guy. And so teachers are doing their part. And we need to debate as a society that the children and the students that we have, are they getting the right guidance before they are handed over to us? Because we have a scenario whereby, I mean, you are a parent, you are representing the parent's body, but let's look at it that there are parents that cannot control their own children.
And let's ask Nicholas, do you think that parents have relegated their responsibilities when it comes to handling their student, their children before even handing them over to the teachers?
Actually, the first teacher to this child is a parent.
Yes.
Before he takes over. We in the Parents Association, we've searched and made some recommendation on the same because we found out that it's real. There are some parents who have really abdicated their obligation. And to cap this, we've thought of prosecuting them as a parents association, because if we don't streamline our parents, the moment we are a big stakeholder to the teachers, the Ministry of Education, the community, they will look at us in a way that we are not doing our work well. So we could be having some 2% of us parents who are not doing well in parenting. So we will, we have actually, in collaboration with KICD, produced 2 manuals. One is called the Parent Training Manual, and we have everything inside there. And secondly is the empowerment. We have parental empowerment and engagement manual. We have all this safety. We have food safety, we have sexual substance abuse safety. All the safety are inside. So we also want, as you're talking about the training, we also want to train our parents. We want to read from the same script. Yes.
And Robbie, you know, there's a tweet here by Gregory Victor. He's saying the problem isn't really the teacher, it is the social fabric. It is the social fabric is in jeopardy. Look at it this way: the children are 4 times in danger than at schools. Why? Because the guardians or parents have neglected their roles, claiming to be too busy. Sometimes I wonder how. That's a question he's asking. I mean, is it true that parents have decided, you know, I have my career, I have to pursue my career. Once you're done with once the midterms are over, you go put, you know, your student to leave them at the gate. That's it.
I can attest to the fact that life today is pretty difficult. With both parents working, there's really nobody in the home front to be able to manage, you know, the idea of parenting, which is a full-time job. So you find that to some extent, parents might not be able to balance unless you're a really nosy parent. The other thing that is also to be noted is that the child of today is not the child of yesterday. The child of today, you know, has secrets you can't even unravel. at the age of 3, they know more than you do because they are on the internet, they have friends who are very knowledgeable. And they also have a sense of entitlement. They never really, you know, face realities of life because we parents keep on trying to compensate for a time we thought we didn't have. And of course, in that way, that sense of entitlement comes in. I remember taking SGR in December, and my kids are adults, so you know, who are sitting quietly, and with my mom and my parents. And you know, parents had kids, like thousands of kids were running through the train, you know, through literally from one end to the other. And the SGR lady kept on announcing, please, can you settle down your children? Kids were pulling my hair, you know, things that never used to happen, you know. So I think the kids have become so entitled, and parents are busy just pleasing.
They've taken a step back.
Yeah, they don't know what to do with the children today, because the children, I don't know whether they learn that from school or the parent lets them just be. Because if punishment is not being meted at home and at school, then you see the kid is kind of left to their own devices. So for me, I don't know whether there's a manual for parenting, but there are basics, which I think we learned from our parents, that children really are, we are stewards of children. They just pass through your hands. So they shouldn't really be controlling your life. And to some extent, teachers who are my friends told me to say today that parents also display that contempt to teachers in school in front of the children. And therefore the dignity that came with being a teacher is no longer there. If the parent, if you complain about the child, it's a reflection of you as a person. If the child has something to say against you, it's a reflection of you as the teacher. But the bottom line is the child themselves should, I mean, parents themselves should question, why my child? You know, you should be able to question, why is this child being isolated amongst, a school can have 1,000 children, so why should you be the one who is always coming in? And even as you're coming in, instead of, you know, like kind of siding with the teacher, you're there, you know, consoling the child and making it look like it's the teacher who's on the wrong. So for me, I think the parents of today, it's unfortunate that they really have to toil that hard to make ends meet, but in the process, they still need to go back to the old. What is it that my parent gave me that made me who I am today? How come they go to work on time? How come they come back home? How come they are disciplined and yet they cannot impart that to the children?
All right. And there definitely should be a middle ground between the teachers and the parents on how safe, you know, and how to discipline students and young people. But away from that, there is a case of the rising reports of sexual violence within schools. Just the other day, there was a report by the TSC about more than 1,000 teachers were sacked in the last 7 years because of having sexual relations with learners, which indicating a very worrying scenario. And I'll start with you, Victor. What do you make of that?
Okay, that is a statistic from my employer.
Yes.
And okay, I believe that when you come to teaching, just as I've said, it is parenting. What you cannot do to your own child, you should not do to somebody else's child. And so I would really say that in all our school environments, let us have people who can be held into account. If it's a teacher, let them be teachers who have been vetted, they have certificate of good conduct, and they have all that is required. And I can proudly say that our employer today, before you are registered as a teacher, they look at your qualifications, they look at all the other things, whether you are fit to teach.
But you know, this is a very worrying statistic, and it is rising by the day.
And you know, it was said that out of some of these many things that take place, only 2% or even the early pregnancies that we are talking about, 2% teachers are
involved.
98% is the society, other stakeholders. But you see, being that a teacher takes 900 to 1,000 hours with the students, they can be victims. But do we go through the proper procedures to confirm that is actually indeed the teacher? Or is it just about the teacher being said that is the teacher and no DNA test has been taken? Look at the other day. There was an incident in one of the schools in Nairobi whereby a girl brought a lot of commotion to the schools. Teachers went through a lot of emulation. The DNA test, including the father and the children, a female teacher with a family there. I mean, it was so traumatizing to a teacher who stands in front of the students. So the moral decay or any other thing, I take it back to the parents. Please guide the children. If in any case there are early indicators of a teacher or any other adult trying to entice a student to related things, then they really need to know how to go about it, or even to alert authorities or to alert the parents so that these cases are avoided. But I stand to say that the role of a teacher in our society should not be ignored. And teachers need to be respected and at the same time check whether there are other things or factors that could be contributing to this.
But you could not turn a blind eye to the fact that these statistics are actually
that is why I'm not turning, I'm saying that according to that statistics, 2%, isn't it? This
actually 1,077 teachers have already been sacked within the last 8 years.
This 98% that we are talking about, where are they? Why are they not being profiled? Because as I'm not defending the teacher who has done a mistake, because everyone must be accountable. My own child, done for that, I would not be happy as a parent. I would not do it to somebody else's child.
All right.
And so what I'm requesting is that as we look at safety, let us not zero it into what the teacher has done. Let us zero it into what our government is doing. Then we need more and more training workshops where teachers can be talked to, so that they know what to have. Or even say that when we are admitting teachers, we need to have teachers whose backgrounds have been confirmed. Are they family people? Are they people who know how to take care of other people's children?
Okay.
And so just before I conclude, I would say that safety from the bigger picture should start with our government. I was just looking at education news here of Garissa teachers fight off armed terrorists with bare hands. There's a school, that is Nuno Primary School in Garissa, whereby teachers were attacked at night. And according to the school head teacher, Mr. Abdi Hussein, a man armed with a pistol and a knife entered the fenceless school. Meaning our schools, even as you look at the gate, the fences are porous.
Deficiencies within
There's
our
a lot
schools,
of things
definitely.
coming in.
And look, Victor, we'll come back to how the government comes into this conversation. I'd also like to get your sentiments on the same, Mayo, in terms of, sexual violence within our schools being perpetrated by teachers. That's the statistics that have been released by TSC. Of course, Victor says it's just 2% of, pregnancies that have been implicated to teachers. What is your sentiments on the same?
Actually, it's quite unfortunate that 2% of our most trusted shepherds of our children are actually eating them. Before I say that, I want to comment on the role of a parent in that we are to promote the behavioral change of a child. That's one. Two, we have to build the character of this young person. And three, we ought to be a role model before our children. But then in this generation, things have changed. And we also ought to change as per the generation. In the last generation, sensitive issues like sexuality, values, belong to our grandparents. Our grandparents actually were the people who actually are the ones passing on those values to the young generation.
Okay.
But today, it is the social media. The explicit content is everywhere. That is why it is very difficult for a parent and a teacher, even though I would say they are taking advantage because these are minors. This is not actually consensual. You cannot talk to an 11-year-old and ask for sex. As parents, we will call it a rape, actually. That was rape.
Defilement.
Yes, defilement. Our teachers are defiling our children. So, what TSC did actually was commendable, according to us parents. And we had in Kakamega, one teacher impregnated 12 students. In Kilifi County, 1,300 over young girls were impregnated by others, by the society, and of course, some teachers. So according to us parents, I know we have some challenges. Some other parents fear. They fear the teachers. They fear those other people because maybe they have more influence than them. So as Parents Association, we've agreed to take that part. We will prosecute on their behalf. What Nancy did was commendable, and it is not enough. We want these teachers dismissed and prosecuted. We want the data made public so that the public knows Mwalimu Fulani and Fulani are the ones who impregnated our children. This one will go a long way in capping, because the other teachers in the classroom will shy away from talking to these young girls or sending them to their houses, because these things actually happen in a secret place. Because if you ask, I mean, the teacher can ask, can you have a witness? Witness will not be there, because they do it in the classrooms, in their houses, because they normally send these young girls to pick something, and they follow them up. You know, because these young girls fear the teachers, and they respect them. Okay. They'll end up being defiled.
All right.
So we want the prosecution for those parents who fear.
All right.
We will do it on their behalf.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Robbie will come back to you and tell us, why do you think there are actually parents who fear going forward to talk about these issues, and even to authorities to report on such issues when it happens to our children. But before that, we understand that Kennedy Mureithi is live for us, and he is at the Securing the Northern Frontier World Bank, which is partnering with the northern counties for peace and security. Mureithi, just give us an update on the same.
Well, Zainab, as you've rightly said, is that the introduction of development in most of the northern counties is a very important matter, and it plays very well into one of the big four agendas of President Uhuru Kenyatta, because that place has gone so much underdeveloped. But right now, the World Bank is coming in to make sure that probably they will come and directly engage the counties that are in that particular area so that they can spur development. Already we are seeing that development is already starting, like in Isiolo, which is one of the gates to that particular region. There is already the LAPSET. It is the LAPSET program is supposed to pass through that particular point. And also there is the international airport that is in Isiolo. And if we do have this, how do the counties from that particular area and region benefit from this? Remember also, the region is largely a pastoralist community, and how do they also benefit from this particular region? And one of the things that the World Bank is saying is that they want to make sure that they do achieve peace and security, and that is one of the things that is being discussed here. And the consultative meeting has been able to bring together the World Bank and also one of those counties, that is Governor Mohamed Kuti of Isiolo, who is in a consultative meeting with them, trying to find ways of seeing how do they go forward. There is also a report that has been released this morning, but we want to find out from Governor Kuti, who is joining us at this particular time, how key or how important is this meeting that you've had today with representatives from the World Bank?
Thank you. We just had a launch of a report, which is a research to find out what are the factors that could trigger insecurity and conflict in Isiolo County. Because Isiolo County, being one of the ASAL counties, is already prone to conflict because of the pastoralist nature and which is associated with the lack of water and pasture. And conflict over water and pasture has always been with us for many, many generations. Obviously, there is also the cultural aspect where cattle rustling is a cultural thing. But now, this report is indicating that over and above these already existing causes of conflict, the fact that mega projects are coming to Isiolo and other FCDC counties, especially Isiolo, where the focal point for LAPSET, the focal point for the World Bank NEDI project, which is accompanied by this big road from Isiolo through Wajir all the way to Mandera, over 700-kilometer road with fiber optic. And the fact that already the Nairobi, Isiolo, Moyale, Addis Ababa road is complete. And the World Bank road of Isiolo, Wajir, Mandera will meet at Isiolo with this Addis Ababa road and cross over and join with the Lamu Lapset road that comes from Lamu, Garissa, and meet at Isiolo. So Isiolo is actually becoming the junction of all these mega roads. At the same time, it's a pastoralist community with its own pastoral lifestyle. So this report today is trying to see what are the major conflicts that can arise as a result of this new, over and above the water and pasture conflicts, the new challenges of conflict and threat to security in this county.
What do you see as one of the major challenges, probably before we go back to studio? What is this major challenge that should be addressed immediately so that if these big development projects are coming, they are not going to take away, to underscore their importance, probably?
Well, obviously, the main thing is now the rush for land. There is now scramble for land. There is a lot of people influx from all over the country, people coming to speculate for land. Within the communities, there's also now jostling for communal land. This is a communal land which is held as trust by the county government. But now people want to convert that now into group. You know, you could see communities. We have 5 major communities, each one of them now jostling over and fighting over land. So the mega projects are now increasing the demand for land. Number 2, also these projects will make livestock to be off limit because of this, and therefore there is less land available for pastoral communities, especially in areas which are normally wet and where animals will come during the dry spells like now. So there will be now more tendency for conflict around this area. There is also the issue of because of this lack of job and a lot of youth who have no job, there is also the issue of radicalization, which is happening in Isiolo. And this is not mainly as a result of the mega project, but it's just the whole issue of youth unemployment. And therefore, the need now to focus on youth empowerment as a method of minimizing youth radicalization, and therefore reducing the risk of this insecurity in the county. So there are also conservancies over and above the game reserves. We have beautiful game reserves, but now there are community conservancies encouraged by Northern Rangeland Trust, NRT, which is an NGO there. And this also further is keep making land off limit to livestock, which means now there's less and less land available for grazing and water. And this also is a source of conflict. So this report, therefore, is warning us that unless we start focusing on mitigating these challenges, we may end up with good projects, but also have a very serious issue of insecurity that we must start thinking about right now. And therefore, this report is very, very important for us.
Thank you very much, Governor. And he's been able to bring out some of the issues that may come up. And probably from this report, they'll be able to find ways of probably mitigating some of these issues before they come up and cause serious conflict. With regards to youth employment, probably the projects are going to give more priority to the youth who are going to be benefiting from it. And it is a matter that is still ongoing. It is a discussion probably because the northern frontier counties have been insisting that it is their time to shine and also to get development like any other parts of the country. But right now, I'll go back to you, Zainab, to continue with the discussion you have in studio.
All right, thank you so much, Kennedy Mureithi. Of course, talking about the same, we also have Bernardo Juang from Homa Bay County. He has a number of parents who have some on education matters. We understand that he's also speaking on education matters. Bernardo Juang, talk to us.
Well, thank you very much, Zainab. We are here, just as I told you there before, that we are here at Homa Bay High School. Remember, we have several activities that are currently going on here. We have sporting activities, that is regional term 1, regional sporting activities that's currently going here. And to the topic of the day, that is the implementation of safety measures in schools. With me here is Homa Bay High School Principal Vincent Mayenga. He has been a principal for 16 years. That is, he has experience, and we will be talking to him. Just tell us what are the measures, what are the contributing factors that is contribute to the anxiety and school rampages in school. Remember, late last year we saw many schools here in Nyanza region. The schools were set ablaze, and they count a lot of losses. And joining me is Vincent. Joining me, Bwana Principal, you've been my principal for 16 years, and now we have cases of school anxiety and anxiety in schools, and also school rampages. What do you think is the main contributing factors to these?
Thank you so much. This is Homa Bay High School. It's also called the Homa Bay School. I want to say that this school was founded in the year 1961 by the late Tom Boyer. It was founded as a center or an institution to be able to nurture leaders in all the fields. This school has many alumni that are very prominent. The Justice Professor Juang Boma of the Supreme Court is an alumni of this school.
Anxiety in schools and rampages.
I'm just talking about the alumni of this school, just to start off. We have Justice Bosire, Justice Kwach, just to name a few. Now, the vision of this school is to be able to nurture and train leaders in all areas. When students join this school, they join as young boys from the village. But when they leave the school at the end of Form 4, we want to see students we call the gentlemen of the Homa Bay School, who have had skills and knowledge and attitudes and values inculcated in them. Now, as the students are in this school, we have seen in many schools students being discontented and students having unrest in school. But here at Homa Bay High School, we don't have such things.
What is it that has worked for you?
What has worked for us is that, number one, we ensure that we offer very good services to the students. Because as a school, we must be able to understand that when the students are in school, in boarding school, this acts as their home. And so the home must be as comfortable as possible. So we offer good service to the students, from their food, to where they stay, to their classrooms, and to the fields. To start with, from their boarding facilities, we ensure that the food that the students take is good enough and is of high quality.
Okay, you as a principal, you've been working for 16 years. Right. What do you think is the main contributing factor? Do you think students are to be blamed, or teachers are to be blamed?
I think school systems could be blamed for some of these unrests, because I am very certain and very convicted that if the school management and the school administration ensures that the students are comfortable, then they cannot have those anxieties. So as a school management, we must ensure that the services that are offered to the students are good. We must ensure, for example, in a boarding school, that the students have water that they can use. We have to ensure that the boarding area where the students live, for example, the dormitories, are clean and beautiful. Yeah. So as a school management, we must ensure that the environment in which the students live is inviting, that is clean and beautiful. And as a school, we do a lot of investment in ensuring that the school environment is clean and beautiful. The dormitories are clean and beautiful. The classrooms are clean and beautiful. The food is good, and so on.
Well, thank you very much, Principal. Okay, I was speaking to Homa Bay Principal Vincent Mayenga, talking there, saying that for other schools to manage school unrest and school rampages, they should listen to these students, and also to ensure that these students get what they need. They should have a good communication with them so as to ensure that students are not suffering in schools, because this is their home. Back to you.
All right, Bernardo Juang, of course, they're from Homa Bay County, speaking to the principal of Homa Bay School. We also understand that Bridget Singana is in Nakuru County. Bridget? All right, we'll be joining Bridget in just a short while once we get her back. But away from that, Robbie, we're talking about sexual violence in schools, and I'd like to get your sentiments as well on the same. You know, a lot of issues have been raised here. You know, there's sort of like a little bit of, you know, back and forth between who should be responsible. I mean, first of all, what are your sentiments on the same?
I think sexual violence and, you know, sexual violence in the society in general is taken as a norm.
Yes.
So let's start from there.
All right.
It is not looked at as a crime, neither is it reported as a crime. And even when it's reported, it's more or less as if the person who faces the crime is a victim of somebody else. So there's a lot of power games, not only in the school environment, but even within the homes. One of the leading topics today in sexual harassment violence is intimate partner violence, which we've seen recently with stories of women or men suffering death in the hands of their partners or, you know, spouses. And that is something that must not be looked down upon. It's a societal issue. It is covered up based on culture, and basically is something that we need to pay attention to.
And we have other cultures that at some point, you know, when there's instances of sexual abuse, even among young people and minors, it is not reported. It is settled within, you know, a certain setting, family members. And I mean, that hinders, you know, the progress and sort of like trying to eradicate such mentality among the society. How do we move forward from that?
Yes, I had that yesterday in an alternative dispute resolution class, and I thought that, you know, if we see the crime for what it is, if the child is underage or if this person doesn't give consent, then it needs to be looked at as a crime, not as a thing to negotiate over or mediate over. But of course, cultures have a way around it. And therefore, that is not to absolve the teacher who is found you know,
culpable.
Yeah, culpable and violating the rights of girls or even boys within the school environment. What I can say is that now the teacher is supposed to be at a higher level because we normally do 40 units, I think, in campus by the time you're through to become a teacher. Unlike others who do 20, some of us do 40, so that you understand your position in society. It's unfortunate that the dignity of the teacher has been eroded over time. And not just the teacher, the middle class. You find that everybody who is in that class is either in the streets, is either, you know, always lamenting things that used to be obvious for teachers and people in middle class has disappeared. And therefore the dignity of the job also disappears with that. To add on to that, being, you know, kind of persecuted for being who you are in society, like taking the profession per se, and now feeling cornered instead of being able to control your environment, because you're the teacher. The student needs to be able to listen to you. So those are some of the things that we're saying, but that does not allow for teachers to take advantage or to have power games with their students or to dupe students into those situations. They know their responsibility. You know that you have ethical behavior within the teaching code. You know how you should behave. You know the power distance you should keep with your students, and that does not excuse them. Even if we say it's 2%, it shouldn't be even, 1%.
All right.
But maybe just to add value, that is not to vilify the whole teaching profession.
Okay.
Because I think the teachers in this Kenya are 200,000, so 400,000. So therefore, what are the good things that the teachers are doing that, I know there are vices, but then again, there are benefits that maybe the teaching fraternity really needs to articulate so that we know, for example, what they are doing to reduce these vices, and we know the virtues that they are carrying forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Koki. And of course, I'll come back to you, Victor. I know you have a burning issue there. You'll be giving us your sentiments. Bridget Singana, we have gotten her back. She is in Nakuru County. Bridget, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Zainab. And just to chime in on the conversation that is going on in the studio, I'm being joined on set by an occupational safety trainer, and we're talking about safety in schools, but he's going to tell us on the basics, because when it comes to me, and if I talk about my personal experiences, that I only have a very basic knowledge on how I can be safe within any public setup. But thank you so much, Felix. Just tell us what is considered a safe environment, especially in a school setup.
No, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. What is considered as a safe environment is that which is free from accidents. You find that there are things either at the workplace and in schools that contribute to accidents. So for us to even talk about a safe school, we need to ensure or we need to first consider what is an unsafe school.
Yes.
So we have things that can really lead to accidents, and generally we call them hazards, and we have to do an inventory of those hazards in the schools so that we're able to know where to work from. For example, we have chemicals that are being used in schools, in the laboratories. We have radioactive material, we have solvents that are being used. So for those who are using them, do they understand the characteristics and what can cause them?
Okay, we're talking about maybe the public, the population in a school setup. We've had instances where maybe fires take place.
All right, we understand that. We apologize for that. We've lost Bridget Singana there from Nakuru County. She was chiming into the conversation. We'll be probably joining her later on. But Victor, we were talking about sexual violence, and you wanted to add on to what Robbie was saying?
Yes, one. It is an offense for any teacher to engage with an underage, especially a student. And that action is being done by our employer, which is proper, but at the same time, if there's any evidence that a teacher engaged into that and forced himself or herself onto a student, then there's need for prosecution. The public prosecution is what I think is eroding the dignity of teaching. When all of a sudden you have the teacher's name on the newspaper, but no one is seeing any teacher being charged in court. So from my perspective as a teacher, that if you have evidence of something that is an illegality, let it be properly investigated and let this teacher be taken to court, other than the public prosecution, so as not to bring down the dignity. On the other hand, the poverty in our society. Look at those girls. If you read sometimes back last year, some girls from Baringo were looking for the policemen and all that, because they wanted what they have just done from class 8. They're so enthused, they're looking for men. That was in one of the papers. I don't know how true that would be. It goes to the moral decadence of our society, whereby the child has not gone through what we call life skills. So the schools need to incorporate life skills so that the children are taught the repercussion and consequences of engaging into early sex, and even the disease that surround that. And who will do that? It is again the teacher and the parents. Some parents are shying off from communicating this to the children. So teacher teaches safety from the beginning, even safety on our roads. The boys and the girls in the pupils in primary are taught about when to cross the road. So there's aspect of safety, and can we have this incorporated into our day-to-day, even subject-wise? Have the comprehensions in English, bringing aspect of safety. How can a girl protect herself in cases of attack?
Do you already have that in the curriculum?
Of course, that is there, but we need more incorporation and having teachers engaged. But what's the challenge? We've congested the schools to an extent that mathematics teacher or business teacher like me
can double up.
Would just want to go through what he wants to deliver so as not to end up not covering the syllabus in good time.
Right.
So we need more teachers coming in. Let's have more teachers employed, and the subject-wise.
And you think that will help in terms of curbing this, this state of safety within our schools?
Because I remember when I was in high school, there used to be a subject called where students were taught about ethics, the moral. How to behave morally.
All right.
I mean, so we need to have a combined effort, but at the same time, the parents at home, please do something about this so that when you bring me the child, I would be able to take over from where you've left. If your child, you can't manage them at home. You bring them to the teacher tries, and then you don't want to partner with the teacher to help this child, or you do not even give the background statement. This is my child, he or she is going through this, how can we help?
Right.
So as we look at it, please kindly let it be noted that I'm not protecting any teacher who has engaged with a student, but at the same time the students should keep off. But all this come to the poverty and the level of exposure in the society.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And the role of the social media too.
The role of social media, and we'll come back to that. And Bridget Singana, we understand we've gotten back Bridget Singana in Nakuru County. Bridget.
Well, Zainab, we do apologize to our viewers for that technical hitch, and we were talking about safety in schools with an occupational safety trainer, and we're just talking to Felix, just step on set. I was asking you about how is the awareness of people in terms of your experience on how to keep safe in any public setup in the event of a fire or in the event of maybe a terrorist attack?
Thank you. In looking at the public sector, the awareness is still very low. We've seen the way people respond to emergencies. You'll find that people do not really know what they're supposed to do because they've not conducted any drills of the same. You find even from the setup of the house, we have an emergency, there's a fire, you find people using water to extinguish electrical fire, you find people going on top of the roof which is burning, there's a risk of the building collapsing, so the awareness is still very low.
In terms of a school setup, you're talking about a huge population. One of the studio guests is saying that even with the enforcement of government policy to have more pupils or students in school, this in a sense also affects the general safety. What do you think about that, and what needs to be done?
Now, the more people we have in the event of an emergency, the worse the outcome might be. So it is important that the schools should develop a policy to be able to ensure that they factor in all these emergencies. And more so, they are supposed to ensure that the key area they look at in the policy should be prevention of these emergencies. So they should be able to work with the stakeholders who are the part and parcel of running the schools to be able to ensure that safety is an integral part of the education system.
In terms of boarding schools, fires are the main cause of students being not safe in a school setup. What do you think should be the 5 or 3 main things somebody should consider, or a student should consider, in the event they find themselves in such a scenario?
In the event a student finds themselves in an emergency, in a fire emergency, one, they should be able to know that we have emergency exits, and those emergencies should be conspicuously marked. So the students should have what you call situational awareness, where the emergencies are, where the emergency exits are, where the escape routes are, where the firefighting appliances are, and in the event of an emergency, how they should coordinate. They should work in a coordinated fashion to be able to go to the emergency assembly point. And for the training of the firefighting appliances, the school should ensure that the staff, the head teachers, the teacher in charge, and the subordinate staff understand the operation of the firefighting appliances, and they should also relay the same information to the students.
Let's talk about first aid maybe as we wind up. Should every Kenyan, in your opinion, as a trainer, have the knowledge of basic first aid or even advanced?
In my opinion, all Kenyans should have the basic knowledge on first aid. This is something that affects us in our homes, and if we are not well trained in terms of first aid, the way we manage it in our homes is the same case that we're going to do in the workplace. So not having the information about first aid, that one puts us in an unsafe condition. So each and every Kenyan should have basic knowledge.
You know, the Ministry of Education is the policy maker and maybe the implementer. So would you maybe propose the event that maybe would have lessons that take people through this from maybe the basic primary school level all through to university?
Yes, I would propose that the Ministry of Education, when it is revising its curriculum, it is important that they factor in safety issues, and that is prevention of accidents and also emergency preparedness. So it is very important that it should be factored. Yes.
Maybe to wind up, maybe in a sense of a school setup again, because that's the focus of our conversation today. How best should students and the teachers and also their subordinate staff conduct themselves in a way that would generally, ideally qualify for it to be a safe environment, even without the necessary facilities?
The school should develop a policy, and the policy the policy should be a safety and health policy which provides the commitment to safety and health issues. The second thing they're supposed to do is to understand how unsafe their school is, which means they need to subject it to a risk assessment to identify the hazards that are there, and then institute control measures within their means to be able to secure the schools.
Thank you. Thank you. That's Felix Kipkirui, an occupational safety trainer based here in Nakuru County, and he's just given us a brief on how generally the situational awareness of everyone within a school environment should be able to understand and conduct themselves. We do understand, apart from the safety that comes between human to human engagement within a school setup, there's also the safety that generally how people associate with the environment. We know fires are one of the dangers that our students are exposed to, especially those in boarding school setups, but he's given an advice to schools and heads and even the Ministry of Education to implement safety policies that can work within their setup, despite the challenge of having the enough or adequate resources to ensure that people are generally safe within a school and a public setup. Zainab.
All right, thank you so much. Bridget Sungana there in Nakuru County. Now, Mayo, we were discussing about, about 18 students from Kisii were taken to hospital for an alleged case of food poisoning. And it appeared that the school did not inform the parents of what had happened. And there was a social media buzz over what happened and why did the school inform the parents. I mean, what do you think there is a missing link here between the parents and teachers when it comes to safety of students?
Actually, as a chair of Parents Association, I'm sorry for what happened in Kisii. Actually, under normal circumstances, when an emergency happens, it's upon the school management. That is the principal, the school management to handle. Because as parents, we actually don't come from around. Most of the parents don't come from around that school, if the school is a boarding school. Others could come from as far as 150 kilometers or even 300 kilometers. So, in an emergency, it is the teacher, the principal, who is the CEO of the school, is the one actually to tackle any issue of safety of our children. Be it food safety, like you've said, food poisoning.
Yes.
We have energy to cater for the expenses of these children, especially in high school. So I think the first thing the principal should do is take these children to a nearby clinic or a hospital. When these children are under treatment, they can now consult the parents. But then if the principal will call the parent to come and take the child, anything can happen in between. Because I'll take maybe 2 hours or even 3 hours traveling to school. Yes.
All right. And Victor, maybe your last, remarks on this topic. What do you think can be done? Where do you agree with the fact that, schools need to implement safety measures within their parameters?
Definitely, I agree that we must ensure that the schools are safe. So as we look at it, just the scenario of the kissing, if a teacher does not act, it's negligence. So the immediate thing when a child is sick, I am on duty, the teacher on duty, I have to ensure that this student gets the immediate attention. And you remember the teacher is not the doctor, so I would not know that it was food poisoning or whatever it is. And you see, as things come to the media, a lot of things, blames are put on schools, not knowing that if the teacher does not act, it's negligence. And if a student has a headache and there's a clinic or sanatorium in school, he or she is treated there and he recovers within, let's say, hours. Do I have to call parent and tell?
But I guess it is the severity of the situation at hand, 18 students.
I mean, immediately, just to even reduce cases of panic, when you have a boarding school, it's better you take them to the hospital, then after that, the parents are informed. And so that, because the teacher acted. So as we talk about safety generally, we need to have a policy guideline, which I know is already there, but let it roll down so that people know what their role is. The role of the parent, the role of the teacher, the role of the student, the security, and our government. How safe is the school in terms of the buildings? The congestion, have we just taken students to school, but we are not looking at the accommodation that is there? Are the classes safe? Have they been built as per the proper standards? And as we look at it, please let us be very sober when we look at things that deal with the Kenyan child, which the Kenyan teacher has a role to ensure that we have people who are going to be morally upright for the society tomorrow. So I urge the media, the employers and the government and even my fellow teachers that it takes a lot to have the right society. And that we teachers need to be more role model to our students and even to encourage them to do what is right. Parents too, don't take blame to teachers. Society, if you can act on a child, you are a parent or you are an uncle and something is happening, please act before you take blame to the teacher. And then the society will just be okay. But please let teachers have the rightful place in the society because our teachers matter. Kenyan teachers are very respected teachers across the globe. As we are talking, we have top 10 global teacher, one of our own, Peter Tabichi from Nakuru, is going to vie for the Global Teacher Prize in Dubai on Sunday. He might even emerge the winner. So let us motivate our teachers, encourage them to move further, and then at the end of the day, we'll have a society that is beautiful for all of us.
And safe for everyone. And Robbie, you know, your last sentiments on this conversation. What kind of preventive measures do you think schools can take within and outside of the school environment to ensure safety of everyone?
Of all the segments, I like the last one because it brings in the element of safety and health, occupational health, safety and health. Yeah, because I think then it is this is a period where we look at what the society fabric is like, and then we have concerted effort amongst the police, amongst occupational health specialists. We have risk assessors. We bring them together to uplift the capacity of the CEOs of the school. The school needs to be looked at as a corporate, you know, having its own management team. And if they fall short of capabilities of running the school, then we build their capacities to understand what needs to do. Trained as a teacher, my core business was going into class, and it still is going into class. But these are the things that come along with being a manager, really need to be harnessed and need to be taught to these people so that they're able to manage issues. I don't think we can blame you know, at the teaching fraternity per se by itself. We need to reflect on what parenting, I don't know whether there's a school for parenting, but the complementary element of it needs to be addressed so that parents know they have a role, parents know that you must have between teacher and parents, and at the end of the day, the two efforts between parent and teacher will help keep our children in check. One more thing, there is this by my teacher with free education students who are above like adults, come into and they come with a different something else. That's something else that I think needs to be because they are people who are older than the system and of course.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Well, thank you so much. Yes, Maya, I know we are definitely out of time, and I'm giving you 30 seconds.
As a parents' body, we are equally blamed, not only the teachers. And we found out that because our parents are not trained enough. So we're asking our parents challenges we have our parents association. We're asking our parents to give us 100 students, a parent every year. For us, train training of the parents, and we will be reading from the teachers, the parents, and everybody of our children, safety of our children, safety of the teachers, it will be paramount.
Well, thank you so much. Nicholas Mayuga, the chairperson of the National Parents Association. We had Victor Wanga here, as well as Robbie Koki, education, as well as a lecturer, Thank you so much for coming and doing the conversation. I know we've barely scratched the surface when it comes to safety and students, everyone within our school premises. There is a lot of discussion surrounding that, of course, the responsibility of schools and how we create safety policies within that environment, and all-rounded people, parents, including parents, teachers, the government is addressing this issue. Well, thank you so much for being part of the conversation continues online on our Kenya page on Twitter, as well as on Facebook. My name is David Smart, and hashtag is LTV.